You just wired $50,000 to a buddy's new startup, convincing your wife it's a brilliant angel investment, when deep down you know you only did it so you could casually brag about your portfolio at the country club. You are deliberately hemorrhaging your liquid cash into luxury assets disguised as diversification, and it is quietly destroying your actual net worth. Here's the brutal reality. The average high-income professional between the ages of 35 and 45 carries what I call a prestige portfolio, a collection of assets that look sophisticated on paper but functionally perform like liabilities on a balance sheet. We are not talking about bad luck. We are talking about a deliberate, ego-engineered wealth destruction pattern, dressed in the language of investment strategy. By the end of this breakdown, I'm going to expose the exact social echo chamber mechanism that is systematically rebranding your most expensive liabilities as alternative investments, and show you the one wealth protection rule that the genuinely capital-efficient use to permanently separate status spending from actual capital deployment. Meet Daniel, a 41-year-old senior director of operations at a mid-sized logistics firm in Dallas. He earns $340,000 annually before bonuses. His LinkedIn is immaculate. His peers respect him. And yet, Daniel's actual liquid net worth outside of his retirement accounts and primary home equity is barely $180,000. He has a vacation cabin in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. He uses 11 days per year. He holds equity stakes in 3 startups, none of which have generated a single distribution. He has a 1967 Mustang Fastback he calls a collectible asset. And last spring, he spent $28,000 on a limited edition sculpture from a gallery his colleague recommended at a dinner party. Daniel isn't financially reckless. He's financially intelligent, which is precisely why this trap is so lethal for men like him. The mechanism is simple. Highly intelligent men don't impulse buy. They rationalize. And the elite social echo chamber, the country club conversations, the alumni dinners, the curated LinkedIn feeds of peers announcing seed rounds provides the intellectual ammunition to convert every status purchase into a defensible financial thesis. This is what I call the Prestige Arbitrage Trap. It's the cognitive process where your ego hijacks your analytical brain and uses your own intelligence against you. You don't buy the cabin because you want it. You buy it because you've constructed a compelling return narrative around it, one that satisfies your need for both status and financial self-image simultaneously. Now let's look at the 4 specific vehicles where this trap is actively bleeding you dry. Angel investing in a PIS startup. The data is unambiguous. Roughly 90% of startups fail within the first decade. The median angel investor in a non-institutional, peer network deal sees 0 return. But more critically, that $50,000 you wired didn't go through a rigorous diligence process. It went through a social pressure process. You wrote the check at the speed of ego, not the speed of analysis. That capital, compounded conservatively at 7% annually over 10 years in a diversified index vehicle, grows to approximately $98,000. You didn't make an investment. You bought a conversation piece for roughly $48,000 in opportunity cost. The vacation property. Daniel's Broken Bow cabin runs him approximately $42,000 per year. That's when you actually added up mortgage interest, property taxes, insurance, HOA fees, maintenance, and the carrying cost of the capital sitting dead in his down payment. Divide that by 11 days of actual use. That's roughly $3,800 per night. A premium resort cabin in the same Broken Bow area books for under $600 per night. He is paying a $3,200 per night premium for the psychological privilege of calling it his place at a dinner table. Classic cars and collectibles. The classic car market returned an average of approximately 4% to 6% annually over the last decade according to the Historic Automobile Group International Index. That's before storage, insurance, maintenance, and restoration costs. Net of those carrying costs, most private collectors are running at break-even or mild loss. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 delivered roughly 13% annually over the same period. The car isn't an asset class. It's a depreciating hobby with a press release. High-end art from gallery networks. Unless you're buying at auction through an established secondary market with documented provenance and a clear exit path. Gallery art is functionally illiquid. The average time to exit a private art position is 5 to 7 years. Dealer commissions on resale run between 20% and 50%. That $28,000 sculpture Daniel bought? Its actual liquidation value on the secondary market the very next morning was somewhere between $11,000 and $14,000. He didn't buy an asset. He bought an expensive frame for his own self-perception. Here is the diagnostic that most high-income professionals refuse to run. Take every alternative investment you currently hold outside your core portfolio: startup equity, vacation real estate, collectibles, art, and apply one cold filter. If you had to liquidate it within 90 days at fair market value, what would you actually receive? Not what Zillow estimates. Not what your buddy thinks his startup is worth. The actual cash-in-hand number. In 90 days. For most men in Daniel's position, that number is catastrophically lower than their mental model of their own net worth. That gap between the perceived portfolio and the liquid portfolio is the true cost of the Prestige Arbitrage Trap. The discipline that genuinely capital-efficient men deploy is straightforward. Before any alternative investment gets a single dollar, they enforce one non-negotiable cash boundary. A minimum of 70% of investable assets must remain in liquid, yield-generating, or appreciating core positions. The remaining 30% can accommodate alternatives, but only after passing a cold exit analysis. Not a dinner party pitch. This isn't conservatism. It's structural clarity. It permanently separates the identity layer of your portfolio from the performance layer. Because the moment those two layers merge, your balance sheet starts working for your ego instead of your future. Daniel is still holding all 4 positions. He won't exit them because exiting means admitting to himself, not to anyone else, that they were never investments. They were subscriptions to a social identity he'd spent years constructing. And that admission costs something no balance sheet can quantify. The question isn't whether you're intelligent enough to see this trap. You are. The question is whether your ego will allow you to call these positions what they actually are, and whether you'll restructure before the liquidity stress becomes impossible to hide at your own dinner table. The prestige portfolio you just diagnosed doesn't bleed in isolation. It draws its power from the same social current that silently bankrupts high-income men who've made themselves the financial anchor of their entire social circle. Click the video on your screen right now, and let's pull back the next layer to dissect exactly how the hidden cost of being the wealthiest friend is dismantling the capital base of men who've already won the income game.